Jacob left town for the mountains. He rode a bike with a small trailer. He packed food, a tent, and a bow. On day 2, his bike was found hidden under a tarp. His things were neat. 4 arrows stood in the ground. No tracks led away. Search teams combed the forest for weeks. Nothing turned up. Over a year later, researchers found bones deep in the wilderness. The bones were Jacob's and also belonged to 2 older missing people. A torn tent, a zipped backpack, a wallet, and a broken phone lay nearby. 3 arrows were stuck in the earth close by. Investigators pulled data from the phone. There was a short clip. Through a telescope lens, it showed a tall, dark, fur-covered figure watching Jacob's camp. Bigfoot investigators said the clip fit a pattern of strange vanishings in the park. The sheriff called the area eerie and suggested it could be a nest. Jacob's parents hoped for a natural cause. No clear answer came. The forest kept its secrets. Jacob's trail stopped, and only scattered bones and questions remain. In December 2024, a hunter in Royal Oak, Michigan, made a chilling discovery. Human bones, a torn shirt, worn-out shoes, and a black backpack lay hidden beneath leaves. Forensic testing confirmed the remains belonged to Kevin Graves, an outdoor enthusiast who vanished 6 years earlier. Kevin had disappeared in July 2018 after a trip with his girlfriend Sarah and friends. They had planned to explore the forest before heading to a music festival, but after a heated argument with Sarah, Kevin walked off and never returned. Search efforts involving helicopters, dogs, and hundreds of rescuers found no trace of him. When investigators examined Kevin's recovered phone, they found eerie evidence. He had made 5 failed emergency calls and recorded a short audio clip with heavy breathing and strange howls in the background. A video showed him spotting a towering figure moving across the trees. Kevin's fate remains uncertain. Some believe he got lost. Others suspect something far more terrifying was out there in the woods that night. Albert Ostman went into the British Columbia woods to look for a lost gold mine. He set up camp near Toba Inlet and lived off simple food. For days, his supplies were tidied and some food vanished. He thought animals were stealing bits, but the pattern seemed different. One night he woke inside his sleeping bag and was being carried. He remembered the weight, the rise and fall of each step, and a tight, hot space with a small opening for air. When he was let down, 4 huge, hairy figures stood around him. They moved like a family. They watched. They gathered food. A young one copied his actions. Ostman stayed with them for days. He watched how they lived and how they spoke to one another. He escaped after tricking the old male with snuff and ran until he found a logging camp. He kept quiet for decades, then told his tale. He never changed it. People still argue about what he saw. What would you have believed? Deep in the forest, a camper's ordinary night turned into something terrifying. He set up his tent, switched on his camera, and soon found himself caught in a scene straight out of folklore. Through a tear in the fabric of his tent, he came face to face with what many believed to be a Bigfoot. Before he could make sense of it, armed figures appeared from the tree line, chasing the entity through the darkness. The sight has sparked endless debate. Some think the figures were government agents on a secret mission, while others believe they were hunters who had been tracking the creature for months. What makes the footage more chilling is the Bigfoot's violent behavior. It seemed to rip through the tent with raw force. The clip remains a mystery, leaving behind more questions than answers. Jared chose to spend his birthday deep in a remote Idaho forest. The access roads were closed, the park was deserted, and he hadn't seen a single car or person all day. With his new drone in hand, he launched it to capture the silent beauty of the ridges and trees around him. At first, the footage showed nothing but endless woods. Then, as the drone moved higher, something unsettling appeared. A tall black figure rushed between the trees. It moved unnaturally fast, crossing the ground with a speed no human could manage. There was no trail nearby, no footsteps, no sound, just that fleeting shadow. Jared searched the area, but the forest remained still, almost watching him back. The figure had vanished as if it had never been there. What he captured on his drone that day still lingers like a haunting question with no answer.
Farragut State Park, and I had all the roads were closed, so I was pretty much the only one back there. I hadn't seen any cars coming through. Beautiful views. I hadn't seen anybody or anything until right here. If you just see right up there in the top, in the middle of the trees, you can see a black figure running away right here.
In August 2013, a couple on vacation in Vancouver Island, British Columbia, stopped near a creek along a narrow back road to Port Renfrew. They wandered a short distance into the forest when they heard branches breaking ahead. What they saw left them stunned. About 75 to 100 feet away stood a huge upright figure, gray in color, swaying side to side. They filmed it for more than 2 minutes, an unusually long sighting. The creature had broad shoulders, a cone-shaped head, and appeared far larger than any black bear they had seen. Its silvery coat was also unusual, as black bears in the area are rarely gray. The figure swaying matched behaviors seen in great apes, but not in bears. Later, the couple uploaded the footage to their small YouTube channel, which had no history of Bigfoot content. They insisted it was not a bear. To this day, the Port Renfrew footage is considered one of the most compelling alleged Sasquatch videos ever captured. A Reddit user shared a strange experience from a small village in Austria. A few hours earlier, while in the bathroom, the user opened a window and heard loud noises rolling across the forest. The sound resembled a crowd at a soccer match, with shouting voices and something like an announcer amplified through a speaker. The setting made it even more unsettling. The user lives in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by forest and mountains, with the nearest town a few kilometers away. There are no nearby soccer fields, no scheduled events, and the nearest large stadium lies about 70 kilometers from the village. Nothing in the area explained the noise. What makes the account more disturbing is the user's admission of always feeling uneasy in that forest. Every time they walked through it, they sensed they should not be there. Hearing stadium-like sounds from that direction only deepened the mystery.
Was zur Hölle? Das kommt vom Void, Alter.
On the Blackfoot Reservation in Saca, Alberta, where the old Rockies touch tribal land, something unusual came to light. A camera captured a strange figure, but the real surprise was in the soil. Investigators found several footprints, including a smaller set that looked like those of a young Sasquatch. If true, this could mean family groups are moving through these lands. The idea excites cryptozoologists, as this stretch of wilderness is untouched and protected from modern development. Across the Rockies, similar patterns have been seen, following old trails once known to indigenous people. What makes this case stand out is the hint of permanence. These tracks suggest the creatures may not just wander here. They could be living in these sacred spaces, raising families where nature is still left to itself. The question is, have they found one of the last true sanctuaries on Earth? In August, a trail camera on a remote Missouri farm caught something its owner still struggles to explain. The camera had been set up to monitor water levels after summer floods, not for wildlife. Most days, it only sent back dull shots of leaves or branches moving in the wind. But one afternoon, as the landowner sat down to lunch, his phone buzzed with a new alert. Expecting nothing unusual, he opened the photo and froze. A massive figure was standing in the middle of the creek, upright and facing the lens. By the time he switched to the live feed, the figure was gone. Later, he and his brother returned to the spot. The ground showed no footprints, only loose gravel. To test the scale, his 6-foot-tall brother posed in the same place. The figure in the photo appeared several feet taller and far broader. Locals had long whispered about strange howls in those woods. Now, the landowner believes his camera captured Bigfoot. The Voyager Overland YouTube channel is all about Jeep travel, camping, and outdoor exploration. Earlier this summer, the creator took a family trip to the Ruby Falls Mountains in Alberta. Along with his wife, grandfather, and grandchildren, he set up camp near the falls and enjoyed the scenery before moving on to another site. At the new camp, he placed a trail camera to capture wildlife. But what it recorded was far from ordinary. In the night footage, a human-like figure walked through the camp. It moved naturally, pausing as if scanning the area. Yet, parts of it looked oddly translucent, something not usually seen with trail cameras. Even after filters were applied and the clip was enlarged, the figure stayed strange and hard to explain. Such moments are rare, but they remind us that the wilderness often holds more mysteries than we expect.
Now in the southwestern corner of the property, allegedly, this is where the guy said he had the most activity. That remains to be seen. A little spooky, I guess. It's mostly just quiet. Apparently they're building a subdivision over that way. Huh. Oh. What the hell was that? Ooh. Something walking. Oh, shh. Okay, all right.
In May 2011, a YouTube user named Pua76 uploaded a video that quickly caught attention. It showed what looked like a Sasquatch moving through the dense forest near Ketchikan, Alaska. The footage was raw, shaky, and unedited, but that only added to its sense of authenticity. At first, the figure is barely visible, darting between trees. Then the camera manages to capture a clearer view. A tall, broad-shouldered shape with an ape-like face, trying to blend into the thick vegetation. For a brief moment, it appears to look straight into the lens before the filmer flees in fear. The video, known as Bigfoot Ketchikan, spread quickly among enthusiasts. The Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization even cataloged it as one of the first major sightings in the area. With Ketchikan's remote setting, accessible only by boat or plane, many believe this remains one of Alaska's most convincing Bigfoot encounters. In March 2023, a woman walking her dog near Bartlett, New Hampshire, had an experience that quickly drew attention online. She submitted her account and video to the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch group, describing what she believed could be a brush with Bigfoot. As she moved through a wooded trail, she noticed a large, dark figure shifting between the trees. She pulled out her phone and managed to capture a short, grainy clip. Her dog, a massive mix usually confident on walks, froze in fear. The animal's reaction unsettled her even more than the sight itself. The woman also recalled a foul odor, sharp and rotten, hanging in the air. In the footage, the figure briefly steps into view before vanishing again. Some argue the size and stance are unlike a human, while skeptics insist it could have been a hiker. Ambiguous or not, the Bartlett video remains one of New Hampshire's most debated Bigfoot encounters. While trekking through a lonely stretch of the Appalachian Mountains, a group of hikers spotted something strange among the trees. The figure moved with an odd rhythm, almost unnatural, and its size made it difficult to believe it was human. One hiker tried to capture a closer look, but the footage came out blurry. The details were lost in the dark shifting shadows of the forest, leaving only a vague outline to study. No one knows exactly who recorded the video or the precise spot where it was taken, but the brief sighting has unsettled many who have watched it. The strange figure, half seen and unexplained, lingers in the minds of those who believe the mountain still holds secrets waiting to be uncovered. On July 8, 2021, the quiet Onion Creek area north of Cavill, Washington, witnessed something unusual. Around 7:30 in the evening, a man driving past a neighbor's property suddenly slammed his brakes. What he saw wasn't a deer or a bear. It was a tall, broad figure that looked far too human-like. For a brief moment, it stood near a slash pile close to the house. When he backed up for another look, the figure had vanished. The ground near the spot looked disturbed, as if something heavy had moved through. Trails led into the woods and toward the creek, but there was no sign of the figure again. The man later admitted the sight gave him instant goosebumps. His fear was so sudden that he hit the brakes without thinking. Whatever stood there disappeared into the silence of the mountains, leaving only broken branches and trampled grass. To this day, no one knows if it was just a trick of the light or if Onion Creek hid something far stranger. On May 19, 2025, a man was hiking alone near the New Jersey River when he spotted something unusual. Hidden behind a tree, a dark humanoid figure seemed to be watching him. Startled, he grabbed his phone and filmed the scene as the creature suddenly bolted up a steep hill. The video shows its full body, tall and bulky, clearly moving on two legs. Although the footage is blurry and shot from a distance, the size of the figure appears larger than an average human. The hiker, who often explores this area, said he had never seen anything strange before that day. His sighting adds to New Jersey's long history of Bigfoot stories. Since the 1970s, reports from Sussex County and the Pine Barrens have described giant hairy figures, eerie howls, and massive footprints. While the state is better known for the Jersey Devil, sightings of Bigfoot-like creatures remain part of its folklore. Mark recalled a night that didn't feel right. First came the sound of laughter outside, faint but unsettling, drifting across his property. When he stepped closer to look, he noticed strange movement near the bushes by a utility pole. At first, he thought his eyes were playing tricks, but the shapes in the field looked real. Dark figures seemed to shift and move quickly, almost like running on two legs. On a bigger screen, he later thought there were two, maybe even three of them. Horses crossed his mind as an explanation, but the way these shapes moved felt wrong. The unease deepened when something struck his house. Mark said it sounded like rocks hitting the siding and roof. It wasn't the first time. He'd heard similar noises before, mostly at the back of the house. To him, it felt deliberate, as if someone or something was testing him, waiting for a response. The video, originally shared by Cryptic World, begins with a simple moment. A man stepped out during his work break for a smoke and thought of capturing the beauty of nature. But what started as a quiet pause turned into something unexpected. In the footage, a dark figure appears in the undergrowth. It stands upright on two legs, its head conical, its body broad and bulky. There are no signs of clothing, only a solid dark mass that matches the descriptions often linked to Bigfoot. When zoomed in, the details grow sharper. The head sits low on the shoulders, the arms look unusually long, and the figure leans slightly forward, a stance familiar in reports of Bigfoot moving through thick forests. Adding to the mystery are the sounds. Witnesses across North America recall deep, resonant echoes in the woods. This video seems to capture both the sight and the eerie silence that surrounds such encounters. A lone hiker was moving through the wilderness, enjoying the silence and not watching the time. Hours passed as he followed narrow paths deeper into the forest. Eventually, he reached a clearing ringed by tall pine trees. Suddenly, he heard something heavy moving in the brush. Branches snapped and the sound grew closer, as if something large was forcing its way through the woods. At first, he thought it must be a bear or elk. Curious, he took out his phone to capture it. But the moment he pressed record, what appeared on the screen was nothing like an animal. The shape seemed strange, its movement unnatural. The hiker stood frozen, realizing he had stumbled upon something he could not explain. A driver in Canada was focused on a burned pile when his dashcam captured something unusual. At the time, he didn't notice anything strange. But later, while reviewing the footage, a large dark figure appeared in the background. It stood upright behind a shed, its shape blending with the trees. The shed itself was about 6 feet tall, but the figure seemed much taller, possibly around 8 feet. Its fur looked jet black, fading into a lighter brown on the stomach. The oddest part was how still it stood. It didn't move, almost as if it was trying to disappear into its surroundings. In real time, no one saw it. Only the dashcam picked up its outline. The footage isn't crystal clear because of the low frame rate, but it's enough to stir debate. Was this a rare glimpse of Bigfoot, or just another trick of the camera? One afternoon in Provo Canyon, a man was walking along a quiet trail, enjoying the stillness of the forest. The calm moment did not last long. From the edge of the trees, a tall, dark figure stepped into view. The sight startled him. He quickly crouched behind a wooden fence, though the thin rails looked useless against something that size. It raised a strange question. If the figure was real, what could it be? There were no zoos nearby, no missing exotic animals, and no known reason for a creature like that to appear in the canyon. Yet the shadow was clear enough to leave him unsettled. To this day, no one has explained what he saw. Some call it a trick of the light. Others insist it was something more. Whatever the truth, the memory of that figure still lingers in the canyon silence. In the 1970s, a photograph from Fort McMurray, Alberta, stirred up one of the most debated mysteries in cryptozoology. The story says a snowmobiler spotted something large crossing his path and quickly took a picture. The figure in the photo looked dark and bulky, moving through the snow in a way some claimed was not human. At first glance, it seemed convincing. But the 1970s were also a time when people wore heavy, dark winter gear, which could easily give the impression of a powerful figure. The blurry quality of cameras back then made it even harder to tell. The light in the image suggested it was taken at dawn or dusk, when shadows can distort size and shape. Still, Alberta's vast wilderness has always been linked with strange sightings. Was it just a person, or something unknown. Rick Woods from Oregon was out for a walk when he felt something strange, like eyes following him from the woods. The uneasy feeling grew stronger, so he quickly pulled out his camera. Through the trees, he caught a glimpse of a large figure. Dark, tall, and moving with a heavy stride. It looked nothing like a person. Rick managed to snap a single photo before the creature disappeared. Later, he shared the image online, which sparked debates. Some claimed it was proof of Bigfoot, while others dismissed it as a hoax, a statue, or just a blurry shape in the fog. But for Rick, the moment was real. He swears that for a brief time, he stood face to face with something unknown, something that didn't belong to an ordinary walk in the Oregon woods. While going through old recordings, a hiker paused at one taken on January 21st, 2022. It had been filmed from a bedroom window using a Samsung phone. The view stretched across to the trees about 200 meters away. At the 5-second mark, in the largest opening between branches, a dark silhouette appeared. At first, it seemed like nothing more than a trick of light, or perhaps the shadow of a branch. But then the shape moved. Its outline shifted as it slipped behind a thin limb. From that angle, it looked like the back of something large and upright. Whether it was standing or crouching was unclear, but it didn't resemble the swaying of leaves or the movement of birds. The sight unsettled the hiker. Since then, treetops no longer feel safe to glance at. Even the ground brings unease. The hiker now walks with lowered eyes, avoiding the unknown above. Nearly 3 decades ago, a family camping near Tony's Grove in the Wasatch Mountains had a night they never forgot. They had set up camp by the river and were settling in when nearby campers began shooting in their direction. The husband went to confront them while the mother tended to the children. As she sat by the fire, she caught a foul smell and heard movement in the water. Grabbing a flashlight, she spotted a towering, half-human, half-beast figure that looked like something from a horror movie. Terrified, she screamed as the creature fled back to the river. She rushed her 3 children into the car and locked the doors. Her husband and others returned, but she insisted they pack up and leave immediately. Back in 2012, a strange video appeared online that caught a lot of attention. It claimed to show a hairy, human-like figure deep in the Australian outback. Some believed it could be the Yowie, the creature often called the country's version of Bigfoot. The clip was shaky and filmed vertically, which made it hard to judge. Viewers were divided. Some thought it was fake because they heard the cameraman react oddly. Others argued Yowies were known to be smaller, but far more aggressive than the American Sasquatch, often moving in leaps rather than running. People even shared warnings about how silent the bush becomes when a Yowie is near, and how some explorers never return from those areas. Whether real or staged, the footage still leaves questions. Was it truly a glimpse of the legendary Yowie, or just another internet hoax lost in the noise of YouTube? In northern Ontario, a strange creature has been part of local lore for over a century. People call it Old Yellow Top, sometimes even the Precambrian Shield Man. Its most distinct feature is said to be a patch of yellow hair on its head. The first reported sighting dates back to 1923, when 2 miners claimed they saw it near Cobalt. Over the years, more accounts followed, keeping the mystery alive. One of the more curious pieces of evidence came in the 1970s. A woman snapped a picture without realizing anything unusual. Only later, when she looked at the developed photo, did she notice a shape with what appeared to be a yellow head in the frame. To some, it was proof of the legend. To others, it was nothing more than a trick of light. Yet, Old Yellow Top remains one of Canada's most peculiar cryptid stories. In July 2021, a couple hiked Lover's Lane in Olympic National Park. They walked along the Solduc River and noticed a dark shape off the trail. It stayed very still. From where they stood, it looked like a fallen log. They took a few photos but did not move closer because the brush was thick and it was far away. Later, one of them dug the pictures out and posted them online. People jumped in to look. Most said it was a stump or an example of pareidolia. A few said the photo felt like something was watching them. No one saw it move. The hikers did not go back to check. The photos sit in a folder now. Sometimes, when they open them, they still pause and wonder what they actually saw. On July 15th, 2025, a strange photo appeared online that quickly stirred debate. It was a simple night shot of a forest trail, but in the lower corner, a large dark figure could be seen walking into the trees. The figure seemed to move on two legs with long arms that almost reached the knees. Its step was wide, and the body leaned forward, much like descriptions of Bigfoot told for decades. The shape was smooth and dark, without signs of clothing or gear, which made it unlikely to be a person in costume. The photo was taken in a remote area with no human activity, adding weight to the mystery. Some believe it was a hoax, while others think it could be one of the clearest images yet of the legendary creature. Either way, the image leaves behind more questions than answers. In 2018, a woman in Boone, North Carolina, took a photo of a tall, dark figure at the tree line behind her house in the early morning. The photo was small and grainy. It shows a vague facial profile and a tall shape. Some people called it a googway. Others said it might be a person in a costume, a scarecrow, or a stuffed prop. Neighbors pointed out the area is rugged and thinly populated, which some said would make a hidden creature possible. Online readers argued over the pixels in the camera. Many asked for the original file, for pictures showing movement, or for time-stamped trail camera footage. People suggested setting up game cameras or GoPros to catch clear evidence. The thread produced theories, but no proof. The image stays curious and unresolved. It makes folks pause at the edge of the woods and raise their phones and wonder what might live just beyond the yard. Outro. And for Goosebumps Encounter, just watch this next video